I'm going to be talking to Isabella Shraiman, who's a climate researcher with the Environmental Justice Foundation, about a new study about coastal blue carbon ecosystems and their potential to sequester CO2. So welcome to the interview, Isabella.
Hi, happy to be here.
Look, why don't we start with an overview of the study, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess first it is important to say that blue carbon refers to the carbon that is sequestered in our marine and coastal ecosystems. And actually, more than half of biological carbon is captured by these blue carbon ecosystems, which is a pretty amazing statistic when you think about it. But at the same time, almost our entire ocean, around 97% of it, is currently being affected by human activities. So on one hand, we have the fact that the ocean and the communities that depend upon it could be an ally in the climate crisis, but they're also at risk of being one of the climate crisis's greatest victims. So, yeah.
Sure. Let's talk about what those ecosystems look like. And I understand they're mangroves, seagrasses, salt marshes, kelp forests. Can you tell us a little bit more about those, please?
Yeah, so at EJF, we like to call these coastal ecosystems sea forests, and they're basically these incredibly rich biodiverse ecosystems that play host to a large amount of marine life, as well as sequestering carbon, both in terms of in the sediment and within the host of marine life that exists within these ecosystems.
Now, I understand from your study that just the loss of seagrass alone releases about 300 million tons of carbon every year. And if you include coastal wetlands, it rises to 450 million tons a year.
Yes, so the rates of degradation in a lot of these ecosystems is incredibly high, from human activities like trawling, like building on salt marshes and overfishing. So we're actually destroying these ecosystems faster than they can regenerate.
And what happens, what can we do to stop that? I mean, is there any momentum at the international level to bring in restrictions to slow down or stop the degradation?
Yeah, so you may have heard of the 30 by 30 Ocean Protection Plan, which is gaining a lot of attention on the international stage. And basically, the goal of this campaign is to designate 30% of the ocean as ecologically representative marine protected areas by 2030. And when we say marine protected areas, we don't mean paper parks, we mean real protections that these ecosystems and the biodiversity within them are truly protected.
Well, what can the average citizen in, most of our audience is in North America and Europe. So what can the average citizen in those countries, what can they do to help?
Yeah, so I think when we're faced with the climate crisis, it can be pretty easy to feel disempowered as an individual. But there are actually many actions that an individual can take to help protect our oceans. There are changes to diets and lifestyle. And even more importantly, I would say, is that we have the power to pressure our elected officials, whether that's, on the local level or the national level or even the international level, let them know that we're watching, that we care, and that our voices need to be heard, and that we support ambitious decarbonization and nature conservation action now.
And on that note, your report is backed by an open letter from 7,000 scientists and climate researchers and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the letter covers sort of three key demands that have been signed on to by, as you mentioned, over 7,000 marine and climate scientists, human rights activists, public figures, elected representatives, and members of the public, as well as over 90 other NGOs. And the demands that we put forward in this letter are sort of threefold. So the first one is to include specific legally binding targets to protect and restore blue carbon within climate action. So really trying to marry the ocean conservation and the climate action together. We are asking for government leaders to commit to that 30 by 30 ocean protection plan. And we're demanding an international moratorium on deep sea mining to protect those sort of largely undiscovered and really important ecosystems in the ocean.
Well, Isabel, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate your insights.
Happy to help. Speak soon.